Okay, practice first. And we are going to do 3 and 5. Look at this. 11 of you haven't even started. For shame. Students come to me after exam 1 and they're like, I don't know why I did so badly. Well, guess what? I'm going to pull this stuff up and I'm going to say, hey, you didn't do the things I told you to do. That was for those of you who haven't done it. For those of you who have done it, thank you very much. Question 3. Y3K has sales of 6389, total assets of 3005, and a debt to equity ratio of 1.6. If the ROE is 10%, what is its net income? So let's talk about a couple of things here. They actually gave us ROE, didn't they? Yeah. So, right off the top of your head, tell me a formula for ROE.
Profit margin times total, TAT.
Yeah.
Times equity multipliers.
Yeah, times the equity multiplier. Can someone else give me another calculation for ROE?
Net income divided by total equity.
Yeah, that's the one I thought you guys were going to throw out first. Okay, now what do we have? We have debt to equity ratio. What can we do with that number to get the equity multiplier? Just add 1, right? Equity multiplier equal 1 plus debt to equity ratio. Okay, so we know this is what, 2.6? Does that make sense? Okay, now what else do we have? We have sales and total assets. Well, guess what? This is just sales over total assets, right? So what did they give us for sales? 6,389 divided by total assets 3,005. And so that's going to be what goes in there. Let's see, actually, we didn't even have to do this because what is profit margin? Right?
Net income divided by sales.
Say again.
Net income divided by sales.
Yeah, it's net income divided by sales. And so let's see what we get here. So I can actually rearrange this whole thing just to get net income by itself, can I? Let's do the easy way. So ROE, they tell us, is 10%. Is that correct? And net income divide by sales. Yeah, and here's something really fun. What about this?
Cancel them.
Yeah, these cancel. We don't even have to worry about that. And then multiply by the equity multiplier, which we said was 2.6. And so all I have to do is say 0.10 equal net income times 2.6. Divide by total assets. What were total assets?
3,005.
3,005? Okay, now, how would I solve this on my calculator?
Just multiply that first.
Yeah, I'm going to go 0.1 times 3,005, which is going to give me, what, $300.50? Is equal to net income times 2.6. What do I do next? Yeah, divide both sides by 2.6. What is 305 divided by 2.6?
115.58.
Okay, so did you actually do the calculation? Very good. Do you see that? Do we even have to mess with the sales? No. And in fact, if I was really going to be cruel, I could throw you a problem like that and leave sales out altogether, right? Not going to do that. I'm not that. I'm evil, but not that evil. Okay. Any questions about this one before we jump to the next one? Okay. Number 5 on the practice. Assume the following ratios are constant. What does constant mean? Hey, they don't change. So they ask us, what is the sustainable growth rate? What's the formula for sustainable growth rate?
ROE into B
Times B
divided by 1 minus ROE.
times B, right? So all we've really got to figure out is ROE and B. Do we have information to figure out ROE? Yeah, ROE, we just got through saying, is profit margin times total asset turnover times the equity multiplier. What they tell us our profit margin is?
6.3%.
0.5.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna-
Yeah, if you're throwing it into a formula, always
Sorry,
make it
I was
less.
looking at my computer. It's
0.059.
Oh, so what does this one say?
0.059.
0.059, you're messing with me.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Times, what's the total asset turnover on my computer?
Three.
How about 3? And what's the equity multiplier on my computer?
1.5.
1.5. So, what are we looking at here?
0.26. 0.27.
So,
Yeah, it says do not round.
yeah, don't round. Oh, by the way, leave numbers in your calculator. In fact, I'm going to demonstrate this to you right now, and I'll show you how to do it. What happened to my calculator? There we go. Okay, here we go. 0.059, which we were given, times 3 times 1.5 equal. I've got this number. I don't want to round it. What should I do?
Store.
Store it. And how do I do that? This button that says stow. It's like you're going to the stove. You're going to stow this in. What do I hit next?
1.
Yeah, you got to hit one of the numbers. I don't care which one, but just remember where you stuck it. And so I'm going to put, and this is what I always do on my scratch paper. I always make a note of where I put this stuff so I'll be able to remember later. Okay, now, they want us to, we need B. What is B?
Amount we retain.
Yeah, the retention ratio. And what do they give us that'll allow us to get there? Payout ratio. Most common mistake, students throw in the payout ratio instead of the retention ratio. So what are we going to do here? We're going to take 1 minus 0.35, and that is going to be equal to 0.65. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in the calculator so you guys can see it. 1 minus 0.65, 35, sorry, getting ahead of myself. And that gives us 0.65. What do you think I should do with that number? Yeah, I'm going to store, very good. I'm going to store it in location 2. Okay, now, this is where it gets kind of stinky. And I'm going to show you a trick. Notice that this thing shows up twice. Let's go ahead and calculate that thing. So I'm just going to say recall 1 times recall 2. That gives me B, which is, I'm now going to put in, let's say that is number 3. And so what I'm really looking at here is recall 3 divided by 1 minus recall 3. Does that make sense? Okay, how would you attack this thing? By the way, I better store that, right? Store 3. How are we going to attack this thing next? Mr. Sadai, you seem to be a mathematician.
But we can just store another one by subtracting by 1 and then divide.
Okay, would you like to know an easier way? But he's actually right. You start on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And so what I'm going to, yes?
Do the 1 minus recall 3 and then do the 1 over.
Oh, she's clever. Look at this. 1
I am a
minus.
mathematician.
Very good. 1 minus recall 3 equals. That's what's on the bottom. But unfortunately, right now, the way we've got this thing figured out is that's on the top. And so what did Ms. Perry say to do? She said, well, there is this nifty button up here that says 1 over x.
It's above the exponent one.
Yeah, my eyes are messing with me. So when I hit 1 over x, what does that do? It takes that 0.8 and puts it down below. Does that make sense? Okay, one more step to solve this problem. What is it? Yeah, multiply by recall 3. I'm getting 0.2086. When we make a percentage of that, it's 20.86%, which is exactly what they said it would be. Does that fix you guys up for that one?
So you did, can you explain the 1 over x part again?
Okay, so if I figure out something that's actually on the bottom, the way I can throw it to the bottom is by hitting the 1 over x key. Because that thing we just figured out is x. And if I hit that button, so for instance, if I had 4 and I wanted that 4 on the bottom, I hit that 1 over x key and now it's 1 over 4, so the calculator would say 0.25.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Now, you could, if that puzzles you, you can find other ways to go about it, right? I mean, you guys have had at least, what, 3 hours of algebra? I hope. Yeah. Questions?
Yeah, how do you clear what you stored?
Oh, very good. First of all, you really don't have to. But secondly, if you're really, really crazy about such things, you can say second memory, second clear work, and that clears that all out. The number you put in next will overwrite the old memory stuff. Other questions? Okay. Oh, here we go. Now we're on to the homework. I think we may actually get these all worked out today. I'm so excited. Turn to Blackboard. Oh wow, look, you all did it. I'm amazed. Is it because there's points associated with it? You're such degenerates. My dogs won't do tricks without treats. I think you guys are the same. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready? Lancaster Bakery has net fixed assets of $329,700. Current assets. I'm going to see if I can make this bigger. Does that help? Maybe. Current assets of $87,200. PE ratio of 12.8. A debt to equity ratio of 1.42. Earnings per share of $1.97. What's the market to book ratio if there are 36,000 shares outstanding? Oh my goodness, what a painful, painful thing. So let's talk about what we've got here. If we are, let's see, where to start? So market to book ratio. So market to book is equal to the market value of the equity divided by the book value of the equity. And they're telling us, do they give us enough information to figure out the assets? Yeah. So let's start there. Total assets is equal to the fixed assets, 329,700. Plus, what's the current? 87,200? Now, you say, why in the world do I care about total assets at this point? Do you see total assets anywhere in this? No, but we have enough information. We're going to get the total assets, we're going to get the equity multiplier, and we're going to use those two pieces of information to figure out the market or the book value of the equity, right? Because this this book value of the equity is actually just what we've been calling TE, total equity. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, they tell us also that the debt to equity ratio is what? How much? 0.42. And so the equity multiplier is just 1 plus 0.42, right? Does that make sense? That's equal to 1.42, and that is total assets over total equity. And so if I want to know how much the total equity is, all I have to do is take the total assets divided by 1.42. Does that make sense? Okay, how much are our total assets? We just said they are, oh, we didn't even do that math, did we?
No, it's 416,900.
How much?
416,900.
416,900? Does anyone agree with her? Very good. Okay, and we're going to divide that by 1.42. And what does that give us for total equity?
293,591.5.
Oh my goodness, can you? 293.
591.5. 5493. You don't want to.
Let's just do that, right? Because after all, we're talking about dollars and cents here. Does anyone else get this number?
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to go right there. So the only thing we have left is the market value per share. And they give us some share type information here. Actually, we're looking for the market value of the equity. In order to know that, we need to know the share price. But thankfully, they give us PE, which is price per share divided by what?
Earnings.
Earnings per share. So if I want to know the price per share, what do I need to do? Mathematically, what do we do?
Price.
Or am I speaking English? Because what I'm hearing back doesn't sound English. Oh, right? How am I going to get price per share by itself?
So the price to earnings ratio times earnings per share.
Yeah. So if I take that PE ratio, multiply by EPS, that gives me my price per share. So let's figure out how much that is. What's the PE ratio they give us?
12.8.
12.8. And what's the earnings per share they give us?
$1.97.
$1.97. So what does that end up being? 25.216. So what should I do with that number? Store 1, right? Just in case everything goes horribly wrong. Now, how am I going to get the market value of the equity? And keep in mind this isn't per share, it's the whole enchilada. What do I have to multiply by? Ms. Wabi.
That's a really good question.
And she has no answer, I can tell.
No.
Ms. Wabi, are you a marketing person?
No.
Oh, wow, because that was a marketing answer. What the hell? Apparently, Mr. Green, you are just too good looking, and the camera keeps focusing on you. Okay, back to the story. If I take the number of shares and multiply by the price per share,
There we go.
boom! There you go. So we've got this price per share. How many shares do they say we have outstanding?
36.
Yeah, so multiply that by 36,000, and that gives us what's on the top here. Can anyone give me that number?
90776.
90776
7776.
7776.
My bad. 9077776. 9077776. That's what I said.
I might make you get up here and write this crap down. 90777
6.
and that's it. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay. And then we're going to divide that by this number right here. Go ahead and do that. Someone, please.
3.09.
3.09. We did it. Now, how many steps did it take to get there? Took a couple, right? So that's a good solid B kind of question. If you could get that, you know, I think you might be able to pull a B. If you can't pull that, okay, back to the story. Any questions before we move on?
For some reason, I have market value per share is equal to the number of shares outstanding times price per share, and then that's divided book value per share. I guess I understand.
Yeah. So this is the price times the number of shares. All right, that's the market value of the equity. That's how we got that. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, she sounds unconvinced.
The way I figured out how to do it, it told me to do total equity divided by shares outstanding on the bottom.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah.
So we could have.
I have the whole thing. Market to book ratio is on the top. Price earnings ratio times earnings per share.
That gives you the price per share.
Divided by
Uh-huh.
total asset divided by equity multiplier, and then divide that by numbers per
Right.
number of
So
shares.
what did she do? She basically put book value of equity in per share. And by the way, if you got per share on top and on bottom, you're good. If you've got total on top and on bottom, you're good. Mathematically, what she did is exactly the same, because dividing that thing on the bottom is exactly like multiplying the thing on the top, right? Just in case you've forgotten your algebra. You could do it either way. By the way, do I care how you get to the answer? Not one, as long as you're not cheating, not one bit. Okay, thank you for sharing. A firm has a debt to equity ratio of 0.5. Okay, firm has a debt to equity ratio of 0.53. What is the total debt ratio? Well, first let's talk about the definition for these two things. D to E is equal to TD over TE is equal to, they're telling us how much? 0.53. Okay, now the other thing that we know is the total debt ratio, let's just call it TDR, is equal to total debt divided by total assets. And so what I need to do is figure out some expression for total assets, and we'll work from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this top equation. And I want you to tell me if I violate any mathematical laws. TD is equal to 0.53 TE. Is that correct? Okay. Now, by the substitution principle, I can substitute this anywhere I see TD. And there's one more thing I want to tell you, that this bottom thing is just TD plus TE. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I can substitute this in anywhere I see that. So what I've got here is 0.53 TE divided by 0.53 TE plus TE. Have I blown anybody's mind yet? Just
It's a lot more
substitution.
complicated than this formula I used.
What's that?
It was a lot more complicated than the formula I used.
Well, maybe you can teach this one after I get done. Okay. But that was fine. I'm always pleased. Hey, by the way, folks, I learned how to do standard deviation on the calculator from one of my students. So that's not... Mr. Green, you're hogging the camera again.
Sorry about that.
Just so good looking. I think it's the shirt. Okay, there we go. I don't know what's wrong with you today. I give you electricity, what do you do to me? Okay, back to... Okay, so 0.53. By the way, what happens to the TEs?
Yeah.
They add, okay, so we can add this on the bottom. We add that on the bottom, what do we get? Yeah, 1.53. And so when all these things, by the way, I was looking for cancel out, right? This thing becomes 1, and so that becomes our total debt ratio, which is roughly a third, which is the answer. Now, Ms. Perry, would you like to share your...
Total debt ratio equals 1 minus, in parentheses, 1 over the equity multiplier.
Total debt ratio is equal to, what are you saying?
1 minus,
1 minus.
and then put in parentheses, 1 over the equity multiplier.
1 over the equity multiplier. Okay, so let's see...
Apparently it's liking me now.
Oh, well, but your shirt's not nearly as attractive as his, so it must just be you. Okay, so. I feel like such a clown when it does that. I told you about my students online complaining. They're like, is your cameraman drunk? Right. Sure. I would be if I had to, but never mind. Okay, so why does this work? It's equal to 1 minus total. So this is total assets over total equity. So this thing at the end is total equity over total assets. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to multiply this thing by TA over TA. Because I can. It's no violation of the law, right? Because it's just multiplying by 1. And so that's TA over TA minus TE over TA, and that's equal to TD over TA. So there you go. If that works easier for you.
Which also the equity multiplier is just 1 plus the debt
Oh, yeah.
to
So-
equity ratio, which they give
So
you.
this is just 1 plus net equity. That's how she got the equity multiplier. But that's why it works. Questions?
So yeah, the easiest formula is the 1 minus the 1 over 1 plus debt to equity, which they give you.
Oh, okay. Well, so there you go. In case you see this very specific problem on the exam, you can use Ms. Perry's method. Otherwise, you can think through it. Questions? Okay.